Yeah.
Hi guys, welcome. I'd like to call today's meeting to order. We can do a roll call. I can do it. I can do it, it's fine. I think Member Quilty is sit at the moment. Member Pretty, absent. Member Lamb? Here. Member Cianciola? Here. Member Ford? Here. Member Orozco?
Here.
Member Domi is here.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. We can do stand up for pledge of allegiance.
Salute.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I don't think there's any comments on public comments on agenda items. Today we are working on governance training.
We have Bob King from CSBA to help us as our last session together.
Sweet.
So turn it over to Bob.
Perfect.
Great. Well, great to be back. As you know, this is the third session we've had in the course of this year. The training was kind of initiated the whole process back when, I can't remember, it was probably the summer at some point. She requested the CSBA, instead of kind of doing a one and done kind of workshop, that it be a series of some kind. And so it kind of built on each other. And so I was fortunate enough to be asked to be the consultant for the series. So delighted to be back. It feels like we're all kind of on a journey. You know, we've all been places. At the first session, we talked about a teacher that made a difference in our lives. The last session, people shared kind of what was a fork in the road experience for them along the way. And so here we are all together. And so we have an enormous task to do. And the fact that we are committed to continuing that effort and providing the best possible program for kids in Utah City is our task. So what we're going to do is spend the first hour or so reviewing how can we really make the vision and goals that you work so hard on early on in the year visible and real and where people will come to the conclusion, yes, this is the direction of our district and this is where we want to go. We'll take a few minutes to look at the sample board planning calendar we looked at last time, and then see if there were any minor changes or suggestions. We have some board members who weren't able to join us last time, so we kind of bring them up to date on what that means and why it's important. Hey, good. Hello. And so that will be the first half, in the first hour or so. So what we're going to do then is take a break, and Scott and Tino and Cloris get to go home or somewhere else, because the last 2 hours we're going to spend looking at the board self-evaluation, which I have the summary to share with all of you. So we're going to kind of reorganize, move the tables around a little bit, so it's just board members and the superintendent carrying on that conversation. And I think you'll find it very interesting in terms of the results, and the whole goal there is to look at ourselves and say, what are we doing really well, and what can we really improve on, and then set a goal and move forward and keep that improvement process. I think based on my experience working with a lot of school districts, you have a lot to be proud of in terms of what you've done in terms of working together. There's always challenges. I think districts that are working well together are going to be much better prepared for dealing with whatever comes next. And so, who knows what it's going to be? It could be this, or this, but we just have to be prepared. And part of that is having the skills to be able to work together and solve problems together and then move the district forward. So it's also been great to have senior staff members a part of some of the discussions too, because your role is so critical. And this is really, research shows that a leadership team, shared decision, shared leadership makes a difference in the district because it filters down through And we talked also about the fact that how the board operates is a model for the rest of the system. And if you're focused and functional, people are expected to be focused and functional. And if you behave where you're not focused and dysfunctional, it gives permission for the rest of the system to be that way. And so, districts are surprised sometimes when they're not functional and not portraying a focused direction. Then it's okay not to be focused, and we can kind of do what we want. So, huge challenges ahead, but I think you're in a really good place. So our goal today in this first hour or so is to really talk again about the vision and the goals, but how can that really be integrated into what we're doing? And then, again, looking at the board planning calendar, some of you were part of those discussions, same groups, take a look at that one last time, and then any edits. So that's just, it's not gonna spend a lot of time on that, because some of the board members missed that part. I want them to understand really why we're doing the board planning calendar. That board planning calendar is the way, the superintendent will always have a superintendent's calendar. Senior staff will have they have their calendars in terms of what they have to do. The board has a responsibility to have a board planning calendar, which is really organizing your work. And so that's why it's so important that we work in conjunction with the superintendent and senior staff. You should be prepared to make decisions, and you should know when those decisions are coming up, and you should have the information that you need to make them. And so what the board's responsibility in that is maybe the board president, and I'm going to suggest another trustee, work with the superintendent on kind of a regular basis to look at the calendar, look ahead, what's coming up, what are you concerned about, are there something we're not doing, what kind of information do you need? So that's kind of, in a nutshell, kind of where I see where the group is. Obviously, every group is different. You've got different experiences, different interests, but it's, we can't afford in California and in public education not to do whatever we can to really make this the best place for all students. We know we can improve. There's no point in talking about what we're not doing, but what can we really do to really make this a focused and functional operation? So that's our task. And so any questions on where we're going today? Andrea and Chris, welcome. You've been warned that you could be called on at any time. That's good. Alrighty, well, let's look at let's look at the issue of what you have in your packet, and go ahead and look through it, and you'll see that there's a note-taking guide. So it looks sort of like the agenda, but it's 3 pages long. And I decided to do something like this to kind of help focus our comments and our energy. You've also got a copy of the effective government system and evaluation form, copies of your calendar and the sample calendar. So at this point, if you could find the pages that say the top note-taking guide. It's in there somewhere. Everybody find it? It's 3 pages.
The note-taking guide, you said?
Note-taking guide.
Okay.
It's a note-taking guide.
Behind the pink.
Behind what?
It's behind the pink.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I said, I don't have pink.
That's it.
Behind the pink?
Yeah, I know, it's this one, I know.
Oh, thank you.
It's a stapled one. It's a stapled one, that's it.
Thank you.
And then you also got a page that shows the governing board vision goals. So review the city at the top, letterhead, and the goals and vision goals which were approved last fall. So here's the question.
Oh, no, I do.
Jeez, Louise.
All right, everybody got what you need?
Yep.
Okay.
I have extras here if not.
Okay. So last time we worked in groups, and we're gonna, Tino and Kirsten, you're gonna still be a group. Greg, Scott, you're welcoming Harjo to join you this time, in terms of the groups. Nicolo and Jasmine will work with Doreen, and Lonnie will work with Edna Chorus.
Okay.
And Laura, you're in charge at this end of the room. I think you can do it. Okay. So what I want you to talk about first is that, look at that list on here. So, if our goal is success for each and every student, the board needs to be clear about where you want the district to go. And we do that through having a clear vision statement and district goals. So when I travel around the state and go to different districts and everything, some of the ways that I see districts are doing that, and then after I go through that, I'm gonna ask you to think about what makes sense, what could you do in Yuba City to help really integrate this vision and goals into the minds of everybody in the system. Beyond this room, how do you get the word out, and how do you get the commitment to this work? And so what I've seen in different places, there'll be large posters on the wall that will have the vision and the district goals. Down at Fallbrook, the goals were colored print. Not a fancy poster, they made it in-house, but it was in English and also in Spanish. That, just something to consider, because when you walk in the room and people are looking around, they say, I can see, this is why they're here. And so that's one possibility. You can put it at the top of the board agenda. The board agenda, Laura created the board agenda today. You can see the agenda for the meeting has the vision and the goals on the top page. First thing people see when they walk in, if they have a copy of the agenda, this is where we're going. This is what the vision and the goals are for the district. One possibility. It could go, I've seen it in districts where there's a 8.5, 11 by version, 8.5 by 11 version that's posted in every classroom. So is that a good idea? Not a good idea? The whole idea here is what makes sense for Yuba City in terms of making sure people know where it is you want to go as a district. How about, when you look at the district website, the whole, it is the vision and the goals on the home page? Is it on the board goals page? Is it on the teaching and learning section of the website? So when you're thinking about how when people go to the website, what's the first thing they should see? They should see this is where this place wants to go. In some districts, and you don't have quite the space here in the front lobby, but there'll be a whole series of pictures of kids and big, large printed photographs and also in boardrooms, you'll see pictures of kids working, studying. So people walk in a room, and it's like, good teachers know the structure determines participation. The way you set up a classroom determines the level of participation. And so when you want to walk in most classrooms, many of them come alive. When you just walk in, you can just tell that this is a place to be. And so, when people, when they walk in, they see the sign to Yuba City, what else could they see that would say, this is our priority? And so those are just suggestions I have based on my experience. What I want you to do in your groups, which are the two of you, the three of you, and the two of you, talk about what could be done, what do you think makes sense based on your experience as a trustee, as a staff member. How can this be really integrated into what people do here? So take a few minutes, you can talk about these ideas, come up with another one. What could we do to really make sure that these are more than words on a page and they're going to be operational in this district? So 5 minutes or so, and then we'll hear from each group what you think. Okay?
What stands out as top
These are easy. Maybe we can do
I'm not sure how to end this. You could even mention it.
Right there, do
do that, but it can be rejected. Or it's like right now. No, that's great. Maybe both. I'm not sure how maybe like that many. I do think, yeah, like where the parents are coming. It's a district website, I think.
Right.
Yeah. And then, but it's like, posters and boardrooms, you have to put posters in the boardroom and school offices.
The needs are so many people, teachers, students, parents.
Where does Marysville have?
This is everything. Basically putting out.
I mean, we're not counting area, but it's probably not around.
And I think we should get that. We have those at the, we just don't. There's a big, there's she-shirt. The agenda.
Then some.
Yes, yes.
They're probably sitting on Saturday.
Actually, I'm
It's
told.
really like, whatever.
Star.
I mean, because we don't know what skills we want kids to learn, because we have
What's
to
that?
kind of bring our teachers to say, if you agree that it's gonna be. It's already on the teacher. But it's not gonna, I'm not. Could, but then again, long term, how many parents
So, I mean, that's, I figured that. I think that would be good, like either a tripod or somewhere we can debate where it looks good.
But then it's like, anybody can't get it.
I know, but yeah, I guess we can find it. Secure. And also, messages as you walk up the, like the hallway stairs or something. And you're posting up, like goal one. Upstairs. Yeah. Or they're gonna trip on the way up.
Anything on the wall. I mean, these are important, and the staff when I said to them, oh, God, that you guys would get on, and thought they fit, but it wasn't like.
Couple more minutes and let's hear the reports back.
No, just like right here, like that's going fast on, like right here, but also here, you know, with all of this, the more you can include students and stuff else, you hear all about, I think it's good, even if it's.
Like even for meetings, like just on these, which is like a slideshow of pictures.
Yeah, that's what I would love to go see these things that
This is a little.
Yeah, pictures of students with the goals or now.
Right.
There you go, probably.
And just like in general,
Ask me another one. Ask me another one.
All right,
like events.
let's bring the group back together.
Oh, all that kind of stuff, that was saying, yeah, like.
We are going to start with the corner group over here. Who's reporting for that group?
Well, I think we have a couple people who can.
Okay.
Happy you, Laura.
Andrea was sharing her experiences at schools with us. And then we were talking about and how the goals relate to her kids and kids that she sees while she's in the classroom. So she can elaborate a little bit more on that. I'm thinking also that we should, we discussed putting it like it's, putting the vision and goals in staff rooms, the break room and all. I know we didn't really come to a consensus of it needs to be in every classroom, but I think that we need to start with our staff knowing, embedding in our staff, and also maybe school bulletins
Okay.
can, so that we just start to naturally, it becomes a natural part of our process.
Bulletin's good, that's a good one, on the top of the bulletin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one.
Thank you.
Great.
I wish I thought of that.
I like the idea of the pictures around the classroom and the offices. I was telling my team that, you know, at the high schools, they have this thing called Link Crew with the leadership, and I know that AK has also incorporated that with their 8th graders, welcoming in their 6th graders into the middle school. So that's kind of cool also, and maybe having pictures of, you know, the events that they do and putting them out throughout the school site would also be pretty amazing for everybody to see.
Cool. Want to add anything, Chris? Okay.
He totally agreed with us.
Yeah, yeah. Did they do a good job reporting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Fantastic.
okay. All righty, let's go this way.
Wanda was a fountain, so, but the first, she came out the gate with, on the bottom of report cards and check stubs for employees, and, also she said have, I put it in yearbooks for kids and things like that, so that's a way to kind of bring it to kids and employees. And then we talked about engaging the student leaders and having an exercise for students, like what does this mean to you, have them do like that, and actually having teachers incorporated into their lesson plans. Kind of like, as like, I wouldn't say a standard, but kind of like, how does my plan address this?
Great. It's interesting, a very large school district, I think it's St. Marcos down in, in Southern California. They did a whole big thing of creating the graduate profile, and this is what we want the graduates to be. And so they were about ready to send it to the board, and somebody said, have we asked the students about this? And they go, no. And they go, well, maybe we, so they snapped up. And so it'd be interesting to ask students, what do you think of these goals, and what is that something that
What does this mean to you?
do you think that's what we should have for you, and what does that mean? That'd be great. Great ideas. Okay, this group.
Well, we kind of put more emphasis on the vision statement more so than the board goals.
Okay.
And we talked a little bit about how the vision statement is something like, even when we're in here, maybe that is the thing that's on the board. And the board goals are kind of more for us and maybe staff, like some of the others were saying. With classrooms, I think they already have like PBIS posters in the classrooms. So, I mean, we kind of touched base on like, is it really effective to have this also as a poster in every single classroom? Or do we be strategic about it and also emphasize like the vision, which students could easily relate to or should relate to and staff should relate to? And then I kind of went off on a little tangent about like how some of the principals, or one of the principals, I can imagine them wanting to do some sort of mural or something that ties in the vision statement, but just kind of leaving it up to the schools in their unique way on how they want to share that out. But also we were talking about like probably within the front office, I think that's what Doreen had said, would be kind of that's kind of like a gateway to like parents coming in. That's usually where they start and stop. And so really focusing our attention on having these types of things there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sounds great.
Sherry?
When you said it, what came to mind is asking in our class to do a visual representation of the vision statement. What would it look like? I mean, that could be fascinating in terms of how do you, the foundation and students and future, I mean, how would you show that as a, you could, I think those all could be up. Anyway. All righty, let's move on. Rachel, wants to
All right, I'm elected.
2-1 vote.
So, I think just from a marketing standpoint, the more you hit it, the more people kind of start to get it. So, I mean, I think all these ideas are good. Top of the board agenda, absolutely. Websites, school and district makes sense. I'm not sure if we kind of, didn't think the classroom was 100%, because they got a lot of messaging already going on in there. Board agenda websites. So a couple of I like the idea of incorporating pictures of students and stuff, but it just seems to, I mean, that's why we're here, right? That's what the vision statement and all the goals are about anyway, so if you incorporate that, whether it's in posters or whatever, I think that makes sense. There's an idea about putting decals on some of these glass doors, that could work as well. Streaming, maybe a little bit, like right now, these are just sitting on, on that, but maybe it could be, either some sort of video or just streaming with pics and about our goals and vision statement. And also you could even do this, at the school sites, whether they're doing assembly before they get going or something, just have, again, whether it's the schools kind of sometimes have their own themes as well, but, the overlying theme of the district, I think, is important to really capture the school site as well, so.
Very good.
That's my thoughts.
You bet. Alrighty. Kirsten and Tino.
We talked about, kind of continuing off the theme of branding. So kind of some of the things you guys already said, visual, prominent vision, mission, and goals on our website, and making sure our website is user-friendly, that you don't have to click too many times to get to something, making sure that's prominent, so maybe not more than one click. We need to have it on our board area, on our educational services area, just as something that's prominent. Like Scott said, having it even up right now on our TV. I know we're leasing the building, so we gotta kind of be careful about putting too many holes in the walls, but having some pictures of some student, like you mentioned, Link Crew, having a picture of a rally at the Rally High School, a panoramic of all the kids in the rally, that's excitement.
Yeah.
And then we talked secondly about the vision and mission in terms of how we let that drive our decision making. Especially this time of the year, we get so caught up in all of the scheduling, staffing, graduations, promotions, LCAP. Just keeping that vision and those goals center as we make decisions. So we kind of had just to talk about that, make sure that's something that we revisit as a leadership in our district.
I think one of the ways we talked about, super unpopular, but one of the ideas was to redo the Friday letter instead of departmentalizing it. But you have the board goals, and whichever item you're working on that happens to land on board, like the board goal is this, and it's multi-departmental, these are the departments that are working towards this board goal, and this is what they're doing. And then this is the second board goal, and these are the departments that fit into that, which almost forces all our team to consider the things on their plate and knowing, okay, where is this fitting, where is this driving our focus? But I know it's not easy to do that. It's so much easier to write your own report and be like, but so that's the other idea. I remember I was a long time ago when I worked for a company in Sacramento, and they were doing this rebranding. And after we had established our goals and our vision statement and mission, the boss would go around and he would have it was gift cards, and he would just ask someone, hey, what's our mission? What's our vision? And if they could recite it off of their, off the top of their head, he gave them a gift card. And
If they couldn't, he gave them a pink slip.
And you no, you never no. But everybody got a business card, and it was a company of 500 people at the time, and everybody had a business card that had all of it in it for them to do whatever they wanted with, and it was on the walls and that sort of thing. But I thought that was a fun way to make it fun. I'm sure with the government there are conditions on that, but aren't those fun?
I actually really like that idea.
So just a couple other things to tap. One of the things that a board member was talking about at a workshop just recently is they have they create a slideshow with maybe 10 to 15 slides in it, capturing what was happening at school sites in the last week. So, somebody would have the job of collecting the pictures, and then they scroll and they send it out as an email, and it goes to every parent. And so, people love visuals, and pictures are worth a million words. And so whatever you can do, I think, to use that to your advantage is great. Regarding, yes?
I know that a couple of people have talked about like the pictures and things like that. I actually would love to see more videos of kids talking as opposed to pictures. I know pictures can speak 1,000 words too, but I feel like there's like a related, I don't know how to word it, but I just think it's so adorable when you have kids actually saying how they feel and seeing like their eyes light up with whatever is going on, whether it's academic or non-academic. I think that emotion that you see through video is more powerful in some ways than pictures. So I would love to see like an integration of videos too, if that's possible. And hearing what their thoughts are through their words.
Any other comments before we move on? Kind of wrap that up. Lots of great suggestions. What you decide to do with that is, your decision. But I think whatever we can do to really integrate this into the directions is going to pay off in the long run. And then in a year, if something comes up and they say, "Oh, we want you to go do this," say, "Well, we want you to know this is our vision, and these are the goals." And if that distracts us from where we want to go, then we can't take that on. So being prepared is the secret, I think. Alrighty, well we're going to shift gears and look at the board planning calendar. At the last meeting, we worked in groups, and I think, so in your packet you have the most recent copy of the city board planning calendar, and you also have the sample from CSBA. So our groups are, let's see, Doreen and Jasmine and Nicolo. Doreen, last time you looked at effective governance and setting direction.
Okay.
So if the three of you will kind of look at those again, maybe you could help explain why we've got what's on there, at least for those areas. Cloris and Lonnie, you looked at human resources, correct? And collective bargaining.
That makes sense, yeah.
And Scott and Drake, you looked at finance, I know. And Arjo, you're gonna talk to them, maybe they can fill you in kind of what the decisions were there. And Tina and Kirsten, you worked on student achievement side, right? So just take about 5 minutes. Yes, question?
Can I just add that the green is what came out of the meeting, our last meeting? The green are the new additions.
Oh, fabulous.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're so efficient.
Thanks for capturing that. That's super.
Laura.
Alrighty,
Good job.
so 5 minutes, talk about yours, see if there's any other changes you want to make. I'll look at it, and then for sure I want those of you that weren't here to have a chance to kind of understand what it is. Remember, the board calendar should set the major decisions that you're going to make and backwards plan to that. So look at that. All right, take 5-6 minutes to do that.
Oh, wait, where's
So you play your off the hook.
remember how we, so June 28th, we do the LCAP approval and budget proposal.
Yeah.
And then that second week of June, we do budget proposal and LCAP proposal, correct?
It is on there for them, June 11th.
I know,
I want to make sure we have this right, because it has,
Board self-evaluation.
Yeah,
Well, that's because
so I feel like
Well,
you and
that's
I
why
and our
some-
departments
I
are
think
aligned
that's
on
what
the
the
growth
I
at
don't
each
know
board
why
meeting.
it's there, but it normally would be here.
But the,
And then maybe
the
it's-
overall
I don't
approval of the
know,
LCAP
but
and the
to
budget
set
is
actual
in the first
improvement, July
June
seems
meeting.
late.
That's what you said, right?
It'll be the second one.
Sorry,
Is it?
that's where we go through it
Through
with
it,
the
yeah.
board, and present it,
And
all
then
that kind
in
of stuff.
July we go.
Then the second one is the.
And you may
And
revision
then,
that.
and then set the goals.
They may
They may
revision.
revisit.
Yeah, could be.
That maybe that's why it's like that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they may
I'm thinking
revisit,
if that's the case, that would
that's
make
gonna
sense,
happen
and
in
then
2
you
the kind of presentation we have going into finalizing the budget. It's pretty much done by the time
So
the
that's-
revision comes out, but that's when
Right.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
So,
That's us
Yeah.
when we do.
so my backwards math I'm just trying to,
Yeah, for me, it feels
we
weird.
put in November,
Because
the
we're already in the
session
school year
was
and I've already
and what I
started,
thought about with that
you
is
know,
we
what
have
I'm planning for this
board
year.
and
Okay, well, maybe you guys would do
people
that.
turn our
I
site.
was thinking
Administrator,
We have
lead
to do
teacher,
it might be
we
that
go
you
over
put
our,
stuff since
revisit the goals.
February or April
And
and then June.
For the data that we do have, we won't have the dashboard data until
Yeah.
January, we don't come out until December 15th.
So, yeah, so
We'll still have the CAP data, we'll still
So
have
it can go
what
anywhere.
we've had this year. What I thought would be, that's where we see, both the goals, like, hey, these are report goals.
really what we're talking about.
And then
This
here's
one,
what
the
we have right now in terms of student data, our climate
The other one,
data, whatever local indicator data, that's what that would be. So that would be like, this would be like the impetus
Sorry, I'm an it.
for the whole effort.
Yeah.
And within this,
So
we'll be sitting on services,
So
that
we're
doesn't have
gonna
to
do
be
it
all,
in
like,
so
we'll go
here,
along.
they're no
So
more,
then we
so
have,
September we wanted to
the
start
December
with
goals.
our,
I think
and then
So,
we do
trying to like
CVS,
set
and
this
we try
one
to do it like every couple months.
is the February.
So this would be a big study session,
review.
all five, all of you guys,
Because that's
again,
really-
education.
One that I wanted, remember I wanted it earlier.
So we're developing,
I
you know,
wanted
the
it,
budget
and I
January,
went back
adopted
to
here,
the
you know.
When we wanna come back with that same group,
Almost
This would
thinking.
be,
For what
Or-
purpose?
that's what I'm saying, our purpose would be, on that one, we would have
and
to,
this goes
so
to.
we already have the
right?
Is it-
LCAP goals, so never change those, you're guys.
We start.
Right, but we're not gonna get the.
December.
Yeah, because the dashboard.
Until
February.
December, yeah, so we won't be able to do that until January. So here it has us doing, here it has dashboard,
Yeah.
and that seems like that'd be a program report. We also have like a
That's
study
not.
session.
No, this is policies.
So I'm thinking, we take this off.
We just have.
No, that's probably fine, that's probably fine, actually.
I'm trying to think
about moving it up a little bit.
This is going to have to be
Yeah, so what I would suggest is that
From a board point of view.
Yeah.
a special board meeting of some sort, right?
Yeah.
Well, December
Yeah.
also.
January, we would have two board meetings in January.
We kind of got to
We'll have the dashboard, we have to go.
before we start making budget.
Everybody's on that, that's like
Everybody
the
works
They've
on
already-
it.
non,
It's just a little
like,
tight.
do we want to do a program update,
Updated.
or we want to do like, okay, study session, and go and read. The difference would be, one would be give, and one would be analysis.
Create a work report. So it would be-
So the study session would be,
Analysis.
everyone's together, hey, we have this, but we can also use what we have now. So I'm thinking that's a lot of this is just,
Small.
like, I'm trying to think of like
Take
the
that
planning and the
information,
information.
such as doesn't have
Right.
a board calendar.
And I think with, in January, we would have two board meetings.
For people to say.
We would not have the study session. We would just have the dashboard update. We could call it Calendar Fair and dashboard and to inform the LCAP.
Okay.
But the difference would be, that would be presentation and questions and answers.
Because we're taking,
The only thing that.
we're taking the dashboard and then we're using it.
Yeah, that's a
to
new one.
apply.
To apply to the
We're analyzing
Like,
it,
to everything.
using it to apply to the LCAP.
Yeah, and this one, we're already gonna know, like, we're gonna know our English and our math there. 'Cause they haven't really released that, so that's, but in terms of our updated chronic absenteeism and suspension rate,
It's not even
like some of the other indicators, that will be official until we do our DRs.
So then,
So you could even do.
might just get rid of that whole study session.
That's what I was thinking.
And then
that's
just
the way
use
to
it for, then just do the LCAP update. Right here
Okay, yeah, so
with
we,
the.
So we're,
Okay,
okay, so we have.
so we'll say, so this will be, we'll present our dashboard data. And we can talk about, whatever,
We will, yeah, again, I mean,
said,
anytime.
board priorities are
there's
important because
confusions or-
if for some
And then
reason
basically,
changes something,
this will then
we gotta
be
make
included
personnel changes, we gotta do
in
that.
LCAP, and then we'll do LCAP update here.
Yeah,
So that's kind of why I'm.
Safety
all-
plans is fine.
But if this is done at the first meeting, then there's just something.
I'm taking this, so I wanted to switch this one.
Probably
So
not a lot, not enough time,
So the
but
single
usually
family
it's
units,
more
Which is good.
priority
what our
changes
district,
doesn't.
districts do it
Although
differently.
sometimes when you read board.
Couple more minutes?
When we
Kids are
start,
gonna.
after July 1, we have our new fiscal year. When we're spending money, we want to spend money that's been approved. And the way it's gone, it's not, no one's fault, is, the principals are turning in their SIP
Oh, so see,
in November. Oh,
superintendent.
they've been working on it with their site councils, and then we've been approving it at the school board in November. Which means, for 1, 2, 3, 4 of your months, you're kind of, you're spending money that has been planned but not necessarily approved.
No,
So we are moving it,
that's the board
this approval to
goals.
May. So like right now,
These goals, no?
we had to institute a new policy, so we had our systems approved this November. To our principals, we wanna get on, a track where we can say it's already approved. There's no, we want a backward map.
No.
So we had them revise theirs for May 28th, this next month.
Okay.
So all your all the goals, all it's approved.
Yeah.
It's done. So I wanna make this every year to May, so it's already approved.
You know where else? Yeah, your stuff is gonna be.
We have one set of the board.
Our ID card
Yeah.
too.
On this, especially the kids.
Alrighty, everybody ready back, report out?
Or
This is your party.
statement. We'll be reading it over.
Okay.
We were good with everything. I don't remember saying summer layoff deadline. I cannot place that. I don't know what I need to do summer layoffs for. So, do you know what that means for me? Summer layoff deadline August 15th?
Where are you?
On HR?
HR. Under August.
It's in August. August 15th. I'm like, what? I put this in.
Well, it is a thing. There's a summer layoff window, yeah.
I know, but I thought that was, I mean, we can do the last, like, we can do last ditch layoffs, but I thought that was July 31st. I don't know, the August 15th. What'd you think it was? What'd you think it was?
I thought it was June, but let me,
It's the last minute, or maybe it's June 30th. There's a 30th of something. It's
The
not, yeah.
CSBA one has it on August 15th. Yeah, I think it's August 15th, and it's only in certain circumstances, it's rarely.
It's very rare, yeah. It's August 15th, okay. Well, you know what, 15th makes sense because it says 15th of March and May, so it's 15th. I'll buy that. But I just
but
don't
it was on
remember.
the,
Yeah.
it was on the CSBA calendar.
You may have to do that.
It's just on there.
It's on there that what may happen. And I might have brought it up because when we hear, last time we were thinking about layoffs and it was top of mind, so that's
Well,
probably,
and it's also on the CSBA, so that's probably where we also get to that.
okay. There we go. Just leave it there.
Do we want to keep that?
I think we go ahead and leave it there. It's good to know. And then the other one is the review of hiring evaluation process. I do that every year.
Where is that?
That's in February. It says every several years review hiring evaluation process.
But you do it annually.
That should be added.
You're busy in February, it's the shortest month.
It's a crazy month, yeah. It's my birthday.
So we're just taking off every several years.
Yeah, just put annual year, every year. Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Doreen, Jasmine, and Pico, did you have some suggestions for?
Yeah.
We did.
Do you wanna go or do you want me?
I don't care.
So, we talked about moving the May date, so that we talked about the superintendent cabinet evals and the board self-evaluation to March versus May.
Okay.
And the reason why is then the conduct board self-evaluation and develop an action plan for improvement would go into April, so that there's, because it seemed odd in July to be developing for that year.
Right.
So the thought was move the May things into March and the July thing into April. And then to do a mid-year superintendent board cabinet eval update in October. Did I get it right?
Yeah, that Laura?
Thank you.
I'll give you my notes too, Laura, on our part.
Right, anything else? Greg, Scott?
So the February, I'm looking at the budget resolution, resource allocation piece. And the February board budget priorities review, I was talking about we're already kind of knee deep into budget at that point, but February is a pretty good time, but if we're gonna do it in February first meeting, it just doesn't make the first meeting. I don't even know if we need to start that process a little earlier, but that's.
Where would you recommend?
Well, I mean, budget priorities, I guess is. No, I mean, it's November. I'm looking at superintendent, but.
Oh, same as. I didn't know you used.
Well,
This is the passing.
Because we're doing a mid-year kind of check-in with superintendent, cabinet, and board in October, so that would align if you want to do kind of resetting, because that is going to be.
If we have to
conversation.
pivot, like, and we're reallocating resources, February's like
Too late.
Too
too
late.
late.
Too late.
Okay.
See,
November.
the green.
November, yeah, we just started the school year, so it's kind of rough, and we're starting to talk about the next school year,
But
but
that's the reality.
it is the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, we talked about that, and just in terms of when we're talking about staffing and all those things that, it got too late. So
Yeah.
the conversations earlier and being able to talk with the board regarding the board goals, their priorities make sense.
I would do that, I would go to November. So I didn't even talk to my crew about this, but there's a lot of stuff in that whole section that I just don't think is very material, and there's probably CSBA stuff, but I don't think it's a big, I mean, it just clutters the section, but I don't know, so I'll tell you, CSD #1, tax report,
Well, some of this
GAN limit,
it came from your department, and I thought it
it
was.
came from my department?
Mhm. I felt we gave them the
Whoops.
calendar. I think they might not have understood, so they're putting the things that they know have to happen. But, so the question is, do you want it on the board
So
calendar?
So I don't think so. There's a lot of things we just have to do, and some of that's just internal. It's just not impactful from a board decision-making purpose. So I circle like 10 things on here that I just don't think belong on
It
here.
lets us know how busy you are.
Well, yeah.
So Scott, for me, when I look at this, so August, the 45-day budget revision,
Yes.
if necessary, is important.
That's the one thing I put left for August.
Yeah, and unaudited actuals in
Yes.
September.
Yes. Cars, consolidated
Right.
cars on there too. We moved November, board priorities.
Right.
Developer impact fee, I think that's good to list on there. First interim, I think those are
Right.
two good
Those are
ones. Audit report in January.
Second interim.
Second interim, March.
I don't even know what the thing underneath.
We don't need
is.
that.
Okay.
Budget transfer, don't need that. Report that may revise, so yes, I think that's a good one to add. So I'll get information here soon. As soon as I can get it to the board, I will. It might be in a Friday letter, and then it may be a little.
Well, so when does the governor's budget normally come out? Because you usually do a report to the board on that as well. So this is the May.
Oh, you mean the January? Oh, that
Yeah.
is in January, so that's actually a good point. Governors, I think that I would add that. Some sort of discussion of the governor's proposed budget in January. I think it would be,
Okay.
yeah. And then the May revise is kind of the best projection we have of the governor's budget. Yeah. So June, I would take out estimated projected EPA, school facility fees. We don't really do that every year.
So do you need, so if you're, but when do you need to do it? Is it done every other year? Is it done every 3 years?
As we,
What do you mean by that school facility?
this is just, I think it's just school, facility use fees. I'm not sure.
It is.
That's as needed, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't want that?
No, I don't think so. Proposed budget adoption reserves, I don't need that, it's in the budget, it's not only a separate line item for that. And then EPA disclosure, again, that's technical, we don't need that either. I made notes of all this, but
Yeah,
I
great.
mean, if you guys are good, taking some of the
So it's
clutter out.
LCAP first read, then it's a public hearing, well, it's a public hearing for both, and then it becomes the LCAP adoption and the budget adoption. And it's the second meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Great. One of the other, finance is a great example, but a board planning calendar does, is that when you think about it, you're dealing with 3 years at once. You're monitoring last year's budget with the audit, you're monitoring this year's budget with interim reports, and you're already planning for next year, and you have to do multi-projection as well. So what a board planning calendar helps with the board is understanding that you've got 3 years running, but you've got a sequence that you can follow. But when you think about it, it's the same for student learning achievement. You're monitoring last year's test results, you're kind of keeping track of what's happening in the current year, and you're planning for next year's programs. And you should be doing multi-year projections in terms of what do we want our kids to be able to do 5 years from now. So this allows the board to fulfill its responsibilities within the context of this complex maze of responsibilities. So anyway, let's hear from the last group.
So, looking at some of that, the October one, so the annual district safety plans that are typically approved in March, the first March meeting. So I'd wanna do that in the first March meeting.
Sorry, where are you?
Annual district safety plans, we don't present those in October.
Which?
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, program reports with board. Or, so are you, okay, I got it. I no, we actually, did we discuss that you guys wanted a report about safety on that October meeting? And then on the March meeting, we would have the plans approved? Did we talk, was that what we talked about last time? About knowing kind of like what they are and like the purpose behind it? Would that be the report that we were talking about for the safety plans?
I think
I
that,
think we talked about that briefly.
well, and I think also there was a conversation about having plans approved in March seemed late as it relates to safety. So it's interesting because they're approved for March for the next school year. Right?
Yes.
Not for this current school year. So the March plans that are gonna be approved are for 24-25.
We've already approved them, right?
Yeah, we approved them in March.
Yes,
Yeah.
for 24-25, or for 23-24.
No,
See, that's the
23,
thing.
24.
It's late,
Yeah.
then school's been going for.
What is the kind of SOP on that from your perspective on school site safety plans with school board approvals?
I really don't know the answer to that. The sequence seems to make a lot of sense having that in
What?
March.
A summer meeting.
But see that, what he just said, if you were approving for 24-25, March makes sense. If you're approving for 23-24, you basically, their board is approving a plan that is literally going to be implemented for April, May.
Yeah. So that-
That's why I don't know now. I walked
I'm
outside with two
thinking when
questions.
they come back from school, they have to, they come back August 14th, they get their safety committees organized. So their first meeting probably is not until the first week of September. They have to get their school safety committees together. So they would have a meeting in September, a meeting in October. I mean, that's a fast
Couldn't we, like,
turnaround.
if we did 23-24, if we just approved that, couldn't we just extend that for, till we get caught up? And like, if teams are meeting mid-year or whatever, they can always come to us for an amendment or something, no?
And that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing now with the SIPSAs. So we were approving our SIPSAs in November, but we were spending funds for that. And so we're catching up on that now, so we're doing our SIPSAs now in May, which means this year our principals had to do November, and they did a revision for May. But that means once they start school, after July 1, all of next year is approved now. So in May 28th, when we present our SIPSAs again, you guys already approved those in November. They went back and they revised those based on current data. And so now when we start school in August, they're spending money that's all approved. So we've caught up, so this year, after this year, we're caught up on our SIPSAs on every year having it approved.
Well, then maybe your March is perfect, but it's for next year, it's not.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
It would make sense for it to be for the following year, not the current year.
That makes really good sense, and you roll into the next school year with an already
The
approved
plan
plan.
that's been approved.
Yeah.
And yes, and if there's something that
I support that
changes that
100%.
you then, and I just don't know the timelines on these any longer, so we probably just need to make sure that we're,
They have to be approved by March 1st, by a local school board.
right, and the
Or
question
March,
is,
or the March 12th, I gotta look at the data.
but is the question I have, is it for prior year or current year? Which would seem weird for current year, I mean,
It's the,
future year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't remember. I just think we need to clarify.
Okay, I will clarify that.
But if it's like, if there's a hard deadline for March 12th, sometimes we don't go through, or like we like switch some of our board meetings and stuff. Should we put in the last one in February then?
We should do the February 27th.
Just to be on the safe
Yeah.
side?
Well, I think, to be honest with you, I think that March deadline is for current year, so we'd be like a year ahead of the game.
Which is a good place to be.
Which is a good place to be, but we can double check that, but I'm pretty sure, I think that's the deal.
Sorry, what are we putting there, the approved board safety plan? Is that what we're
Yeah.
putting in?
Safety plan approval.
For the next school.
And then we moved, so in October, the CAS data will be available in October, even if it's embargoed. Even if it's embargoed, we access the CAS data for math and English, so that stays October 22nd. The CTE advisory committee, that kind of goes to what Scott's saying, that's not like it's like a consent agenda item, we can keep it on there. But it's kind of like there's adding kind of things, I don't know if we need that on there, the CTE advisory committee.
Well, yeah, so it has to be approved by
It has
the
to be
board at
approved,
this
yeah.
point, so you might not need it.
We can leave it on there, I mean, it's fine. We did switch though, the dashboard, from October 22nd, it's not done until December 12th, 15th, so, that won't be until January. The dashboard data, so we put California dashboard in January, which I think it's there already.
It
was there
is, so you
twice.
just won't do an October one.
Yeah, so it's not done yet.
Okay.
And they have early releases in like November and December, those are like releases, but they won't have the dashboard like fully released, I think it's December 15th. Yeah. But they're trying to push it up earlier each year.
So, but you've made a statement, you can't present embargoed data in October if the CAFS data is still embargoed. It's not embargoed in October, I thought it was released in October.
Whenever it's, I think October's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
The SARCs that's on target, January 23rd. We left the study session, and so this is an important question. The way we envision the study session is, would that be a special board meeting? Because we wanted to talk about, it would be, because right now we present, and it's like, just kind of like, hey, here's everything, and you guys kind of ask questions, and then we kind of go, we're done. This would be a study session where we would look at that moment, what we have in our school-wide data, our qualitative, quantitative data, and then we could include other partners in that process. So you could include a site administrator from each school, and you want to include a lead teacher from each school. You want to include a YCTA, CSCA rep from the district, and then you would have you would look at the school-wide data as groups, so it'd be more inclusive, and then everybody would be kind of included in that process. I've done that before, and it worked really well. It's usually a special board meeting, and it's usually, we'd probably want to do it in someone's library.
Yeah, it would have to be a study session,
Yeah.
because you're digging into data and you're reviewing goals and you're making sure there's progress towards those OCAP goals and discussion from the board's perspective of, alignment and then feedback from the school side. So is it going to be, it's like it's a large educational partner meeting, study session,
Basically, yes.
including the board, which would be nice for them to see the interactions.
So do I call it a
It's a special board meeting.
special board meeting? Okay.
It's a study session.
Study
of
Is
the
it a
OCAP.
board meeting? I guess it has to be.
Well,
It
they're all going to be there and they're going to be hearing information. So the thing about it that we have to be careful is that they're not making any decisions in that. They're hearing information. And so that's what's going to be key on this one. It's like they're listening to, they could be observers, to the information.
If there's no
And
action
get-
items.
Exactly. And you just have to be careful that it doesn't appear that you're going to be, yes, thank you.
So would that take the place, so would you have one regular board meeting that month and then one special board meeting?
No,
We'd have
when-
two regular,
Two regular.
one special.
a special meeting doesn't replace a regular
Oh.
meeting.
Let's try it.
Just like this.
Admirable.
Okay, there you go. I'll try it.
No, just kidding.
I think it's a really great idea, like including different partners and stuff, people that we don't get to see that interaction. I really liked going to the facilities, study
That's
sessions,
the master plan.
master planning meetings where we got to see like site admins and different stakeholders. Yeah, I thought it was really nice, so.
I got a question on your LCAP study session with ed partners. Is that appropriate for the board calendar? That's not with the board, right? That's in
No, that's
November.
what he was just
That's what we were just
discussing.
talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the LCAP study session that's listed there in January.
So on the green one, you don't need.
No, I took that one off.
Yeah,
Oh,
so if
we
it
took
says
that one
Ed
off.
Partners, you can take those off. They're gonna do a special study
Yeah.
session with the board, but the LCAP session with educational partners in November would be taken off, right?
And we still do have, in
I
conjunction with
think-
that, we have an LCAP, we still have a mandatory LCAP advisory committee. That's different than this.
It's not board. It's
Wait,
not
I
the
just
board.
wanna,
Sorry.
just wanna drill down, because she said the actual opposite. So she said the one in November was taken off, and the one in January was go. That's what you believe?
Okay.
'Cause are you gonna do 2 study sessions?
No, I was thinking we would do, to get ahead earlier on this LCAP, we would do it in November.
Okay, so you're taking the January
Yeah.
one off, thank you.
I lost it.
Thanks for
What about
keeping
the
us
April?
honest.
No, that's something else.
Yeah, because you do have another study session in April.
And then I was talking to Scott, so if they have, I would recommend taking off the May 14th update, and I would, since we have 2 LCAP, board items on June. So June, the first June board meeting is the, public hearing for the LCAP. Then the second board meeting in June is the LCAP approval.
Right, so you are gonna be doing an LCAP update in February. Correct?
Yes. Well, that's what we talked about last time.
Okay, and then the question is, are you going to do another study session, because there's an LCAP?
I would say we don't need another study session at that time. I think that would be ordered.
So it's gonna be done in November, and then an update in February, and then adoption, public
Yeah.
hearing, and adoption in June. Okay.
Great.
Can I add one more thing?
No. You asked, don't ask a question.
You took a
don't
lot
answer.
off, I'd say you should be able to, you took a lot off.
So, well, and I'm gonna probably try to take another thing off, but not, just because I don't think it makes. So when I was looking up at the setting direction for the district, and there we talk about priorities in October and November, so I guess I'm kind of wondering why we have a separate item about, priorities in the budget section. I mean, isn't it all just priority setting direction at the board level?
Well,
Or it's all the same thing, I guess?
I think I brought it up before, and maybe this is the separation piece of like, we have our board priorities. I really wanna see what financial commitment we're making towards those board priorities. That was my 2 cents for that.
Yeah, and I think, so the budget priority, committee of the board, or the budget review was, it got instituted in the district during the times when budgets were really tough, in terms of them being able to really, and that's why we had those 19 priorities. If you remember Walt Hanline's document, that was really about budget versus board priorities. That's why the board was like, these aren't our board goals or board priorities. That was about budget priorities that they went through an exercise in order to rank them, and then be able to say that during tough budget times, you start from the bottom up and you go, you know what I mean? So that's why I think that's in there. It was always kind of a thing that the district did during the tough budget times. But I hear what you're saying, it seems redundant, because your goals are going to drive the budget. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah,
Or incorporating
the
together?
priorities, yeah, the priorities are the priorities, right? But you want to see, I don't know, a little bit more.
I would, because I feel like maybe a point of, for lack of a better word, contention or whatnot, is like the perception of technology not being one of our board priorities, but we're allocating millions of dollars, throwing things out there, for just technology. But then when we look at board goals, maybe it's more finite than that. And it's like, we're not allocating, maybe in what our mindset might be of like proportionate, or even an emphasis in that or whatnot. So I just like to kind of see, I personally would like to see what our financial commitment is towards our board priorities or our goals that we set for.
I hear you. I'm not sure how to do it, but we can talk later.
I think tying together certainly makes sense in terms of
The
priority
timeline.
setting by the board, but specifically, the budget is such an important document to make sure that, and I think that by looking at if you look at the board goals and then say, what would we need to budget in those areas in order to feel like we're successfully pursuing that? So it would be a discussion that could happen at the same time, I think.
Right, and I think Jasmine's example is a good example because, we have board goals. There are things that are purchased. It's being able to help for all of us, and I like the idea of keeping these on the forefront when you're decision making, is that the idea of if in fact these are our board goals, how would some of these purchases align with our board goals? We have to, as we're developing the budget and talking about these things, keeping those at the forefront.
For example, our health aides and our parent liaisons at school sites, that was a board priority that we had. But with budget cuts and whatnot, we had to think strategically on how we can reinstate those people if we could, which would be a great thing to report out on, of like we had to reallocate some
Well,
money or
and it's
whatnot.
interesting because we did talk about that. So when we talked about parent liaisons, it was about family and student involvement. So it linked directly to your board goal 3. And so that was helpful for us to think back about these things and how they.
And how great that would be to communicate to the public, that we,
Here's our goals and this is what we did.
Yeah.
Well, and I always say during tough budget times, transparency and is helpful. But I do think we need to talk about what does that look like?
And when, I don't know what February, how that works.
Because I know you're thinking, it's too late.
Well, it's two things. It's too early to give you specifics on what we're doing for the next year. And it's too late to develop into,
Right.
a budget. So, yeah, I just don't know how to make that work.
So maybe it is incorporating it.
One of the other thoughts too is, again, unpopular opinion, but also, when we have our board meetings, our regular board meetings, is when we have our action items or consent agenda on every staff report, no matter what it is, right? It says, you always are so faithful to put in fiscal impact and where it's coming from, right? And just an idea to tie the previous idea to the next one is could also put this aligns with our board priority number 1, 2, or 3, just like.
Cool.
Yep.
That's not unpopular.
I'll just, thank you. All right, let the record show.
It does make sense.
It makes sense.
All right, anything else on calendar that we need to talk about at this point? I think you're making great progress in terms of, and what's interesting is, that one of the other things the board calendar does is it aligns the various functions. And so hearing the different departments say, well, we need to do this, but does that make sense in terms of budget? And how does that tie back to the resources? It's a great conversation. So, all right, I think what we'll do is we'll let Scott and Cloris and Tina leave if they wish. And any comments either one, the three of you want to make kind of closing comments
I
before?
appreciate it. I like the kind of cross-pollination of all the ideas.
Cool.
Pollination. That's a great term.
It's spring.
I agree, actually. It's nice to be included in the conversation at this level because I think we do a lot of the, on the ground, day-to-day stuff. So to figure out how all this falls is helpful to be in the discussion. So actually, on Tina's thing, thank you. Yeah.
Why does he seem so surprised by it? Right?
I know, nice.
He's like, I'm actually
No.
Dino's team.
Thanks,
Hey,
Matt.
you chose the adverb,
That's all I'm
Cloris, any?
I agree with my colleagues.
Okay. Okay, I think it's time for a dinner break.
Oh.
When we come back, we'll do the review of the summary of the board self-evaluation. Alrighty. Let's like to hear from everybody. A couple areas that you think are areas of strength and a couple areas that you think should be target areas for more discussion. So Kirsten, you wanna go first?
Sure. I thought, as far as sections go, strength sections, I think the number one is the board culture. I mean, looking at the amount of numbers that are in the almost always category, that is the strongest overall section. With regards to the way we treat each other, the way we treat our cabinet, that's on the second page at the top. So those were the ones, by the numbers, I think, pan out to be the strongest as far as all of us agreeing about it. So does that count? Or does that just have a whole section?
You can get away with one. What's your second recommendation in terms of the strength?
Well, not mine, I was just analyzing the data. And analyzing the data, I think, it is a tie between board operations and board meetings. So I'm gonna go with, board operations.
Okay.
For 500, Alex.
Alrighty, and what, if there is a specific one that you think the board, would be worth spending some time talking about in terms of a target area, which of any of the ones that are on here would you suggest should be a top priority?
The Jeopardy song is in my head. Ding.
It's just, do I go for the one that is like the hardest one to talk about? Or do I just go for one that we all can talk about? Okay.
The hardest one is.
Well, that's where I go. But I'll go to number 52. Because that one's one, that we evaluate the performance of the board, and we haven't heretofore, but we are doing that now. So that is awesome.
Okay, I'd mark that one down. Way to go.
Yes, so that one we're already working on.
That's progress already.
Yeah, so it's good. So I think probably one of the most difficult ones to talk about, and one of the most difficult ones to make an action plan, which is why I don't know that I really want to bring it up.
You like bringing stuff up, it's your strike of beach ball.
Look at you finding your voice in the meeting, Greg. Look at that. That must have been 6 words.
Your strike of beach ball.
That's my strike of the beach ball. Okay, well then I'm gonna talk about number 9. I think that's one. That is the most difficult one, because again, it's perception.
Okay, well, that's all you have to say.
That's all I have to say.
So, Greg, area of strength and area of
So one thing I would say, I would encourage you, like, on board development, the board effectively orients new members. I think you do a better job of that. I know, like, when I first started life, I don't have a background in school whatsoever. I think sitting here on the board, I'm the minority here in that section. That's how it's been. But I mean, it's still, as of today, there's a lot of acronyms and vocabulary that I don't, it's not my vocabulary. Obviously I pick up on more of it now, but each profession you have out there has acronyms and vocabulary that you use. And so when those words are used and dropped, not everyone in the room understands what you're talking about.
Right.
So I know at one point in time there was a cheat sheet that came out, but that's something I would recommend out the gate for any new board members. Here's your cheat sheet, because like the one I like to I'll go ahead and just insult myself. Is ADA. My world is America's Disability.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's why I look at that stuff all the time. ADA, when you talk about how's this, average day of 10, I get it now. Okay, but shift gears, change the page.
Right.
So it's just I'm sure ADA probably stands for something else too, somewhere else.
Right.
But that's this world, education. So my world, it's that's American Disabilities Act. But I think that's an area that would be very easily set up in that.
Well, honestly, for the public as well, like when we're having a meeting and we use those terms, they don't know what that is, you know,
Yeah,
so you can
Kind
say.
of glossary of terms.
yeah, I mean, it's just, and it's not, it's not by, people aren't trying to be arrogant, it's just, you get in your
quick.
mindset and that's what you say.
Right.
But not everyone understands it.
So maybe in correspondence, maybe I'm going off, but in the agenda or correspondence or whatever, type out the word, because if the public's reading it, they don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know what SIS was, SIS,
Yeah, well,
No, student
Well-
information system.
I didn't know that.
yeah, I think that's what Tina said.
Tina said that.
Yeah,
I'm
I didn't
like,
know,
what is that?
that's why I was like, what are you
And I was
talking
gonna
about?
say something, like, what is
Yeah,
that?
I don't know,
But I put it here to figure out what it was later.
and what is it? I don't even know, I heard him drop that term, but I have no
Student
idea.
information system.
I have no idea, okay.
Like
Awesome.
Aries, YCUSD uses Aries.
Oh, okay, now I'm picking up what you're dropping.
There you go.
Yeah.
Your
yeah,
mom, what
I-
she's spilling?
I get
Look
it.
at you with your
I get it.
proverbs.
All right, and so
Yeah.
orientation to trustees as well as ongoing.
And honestly, I wasn't even thinking of public, but yeah, that's a very, very valid point because if I don't get it,
Right, they're not
they
going
don't
to.
get it.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, that's just not my day-to-day operations.
Right.
So when I talk about real estate, I probably lose you pretty quick if I want to, you know.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's like when I'm in that business, like, hey, if I'm saying things, keep in mind, I'm not,
Keep
I-
it simple.
like, yeah. And it's like, you know, hey, if I'm saying something you don't get, stop me because in my mind, it might make sense.
That's right, right.
So, but that's just, we get stuck in our own lane.
Well, and each kind of profession has its own vocabulary.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely,
unique to that.
absolutely.
One word means
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah, and it's like, I can say like, right now, I'm dealing with that in the world of a residential agent dropping terms that she, I don't think completely understands, and like, I had to ask her, like, so what do you mean? Because I know what that definition means, but I don't think you do.
Right.
So explain it to me, what you believe it is, so we're on the same page, please. Because, and I'm not trying to educate you, I just want to hear what you have to say, because I know what I know.
Yeah.
A quick little thing, my husband's a pilot, so he talks to me in military time. I can't stand that. It's like, dude, just say 4 o'clock. Not
1600.
1600 hours, and like, let's meet for dinner at 1600. What was that?
You just respond, Roger that. Copy that.
You know what I'm saying?
Half the hours at 1700 doesn't sound right.
Yeah, and it's not,
He does it
and
all
it's
the
not,
time,
and it's not,
annoying.
it's not 1600, it's just 1600.
Okay, well, whatever, it's stupid. It's like, now what time am I meeting you? Cause I don't have it calculated out in my head.
At that point, you just change the time on your phone.
Anyway, FYI.
Yeah,
Oh,
So-
what is that?
What does that mean to everybody? All right, thanks, Greg.
Good job, Greg. That was great.
Or Joe, what do you think?
I think we do really good. Number 6, like we respect the decisions we each make, even if they might not be the same decisions. I do think we need to work a lot more on community leadership, like as a whole, because it's a very disciplining section. Because we're engaging with the community every day, and with students and parents, like we just need to be able to focus more and see what resources we can use to focus these.
So 54 is your, as a specific one or broader than that, based on what you said?
Like broader.
The whole area.
Yeah, just the whole area in general. It's very yellow.
All right, Nico?
Just like an area of strength, an area of weakness.
Yeah.
The area of strength I starred was number 19, board members receive timely information.
That's what I
I
thought as
think,
well.
so that's more on staff, yeah, let staff do a good job of sharing timely information with us. And then for area of improvement, the first one I started was what Kirsten brought up, number 9, board members keep confidential, matters confidential. I also thought it was interesting going through the whole entire thing that there isn't even a single 5 anywhere. There was nothing that even all 5 of us had the exact same thought.
7.
Yeah, well, I know, but I'm saying we didn't even get to 5, yet alone 7. Like, the highest number anywhere is a 4, which I thought was pretty impressive. Not necessarily in a good way, but.
Yeah.
Almost. It's hard to do that.
Well, to me, it means we did a good job because we didn't just go, yes, yes,
Yeah.
always, always, always like we answer most things.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, extremely well.
Okay. Jasmine?
So strengths, I kind of looked at it through the lens of, because we did shift for 4 of us, like we did shift board group, I guess you can say, like there was a pretty big turnover 2 years ago. So just looking at like where my headspace was or how I felt before and looking at it now, I definitely agree with Harjo in number 6. Like I feel like we don't undermine the board's decision. I feel like it's a safe place to say how you feel without like judgment, and at the end of the day, however we vote is however we vote, and there's no animosity afterwards. So I definitely think that that's an area of like strength, also like board culture in general, but I definitely circled board number 14, board members follow agreements on how they will act towards each other. That's just something that stood out to me. And then as far as like improvements, I actually circled number 53. The board evaluates the performance of the superintendent based on established expectations. I know in the past, like we've talked about getting a proper like superintendent evaluation like toolkit, and I don't feel like we have that quite yet, but maybe but I do know we've talked about it and we're working in the right direction for that. So it's not necessarily that I feel like we don't do that. I just feel like I'd like to have more like knowledge of the toolkit and options, but also like make it more kind of like how we review our CSEA CTA members. Like kind of like where they get to the opportunity to provide feedback on how they want the goals or whatnot, like really provide direction. So giving that to the superintendent, that's where my room for improvement is. And then the other big thing I circled, community leadership in general. I feel like by no means do I feel like we haven't made progress, because I definitely see the progress that we're making and I love the discussions that we're having too. But I just feel like that's maybe a general area that we can just improve on.
Okay. I was thinking that maybe just for the, if you, before leaving tonight, maybe you could just go through a blank copy I have and just kind of give your own evaluation on it.
Yeah.
Because it would be interesting to include that in the totals somehow.
Sure.
Because it may, a recording of not sure doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So
No worries.
I think you could add to the mix, and then if you choose to do this again next year, that could be part of the baseline.
Yeah.
As opposed to just having not sure. So,
Perfect.
great. Lana?
Well, the board culture, that is, I like that because listening to the board meetings before I came on the board, not that it's fantastic because I'm here, but.
But it is.
Of course. But it was bad. I'm just saying, was it? And now, I mean, like, I get friends who will message that are listening and they comment on how amazing the board is doing and the questions they ask and the accountability that they're holding everyone to, and very thankful for it. I get a text message probably every other meeting from one of the people I know that are out there watching, which is really good. They're very appreciative. So that makes me feel good. I had a question on one that says number 11, individual board members do not attempt to direct the superintendent. What is that? It's like we're not bossing her around? I'm not understanding that one. What does that mean?
I took it to mean like, we're not picking up the phone and being like, Doreen, don't do this, or go with this person for this, or,
Like we direct her as a board, not separately.
right.
Like she's not hearing like 7 different opinions, she's hearing one from each board.
Unfortunately, I text her several times asking questions and.
No,
But you're
that's
asking
Questions aren't
different-
direction.
Yeah, you're asking
Yeah.
questions, but
Okay.
you're
This
not
is like
telling me
if-
go do this.
No, right, and I appreciate that you get right back to me, even on a Friday night at 6 o'clock, when everybody should be home and not worrying about this stuff, but, okay.
Doreen's
So we're
very
good at that.
proficient then in that.
She does a great job of responding. I would say that, so the culture is really good. The community, I believe, the community can be better. I attend city council meetings all the time and listen to them. And then I went to one and they were giving some high school information. I sort of didn't think it was right, so I need to find out what it is and talk to you. It was a city council meeting and they were giving some information. I was like, where did you get that information? Because I don't think that's right. So how we work with the city members and mayor and city council and stuff. I think get them more involved.
Also the community relations.
Yes.
We go to their meeting, they come to ours.
I haven't seen one to our meeting.
City council?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think they
Yes, we
sat in on.
don't you recall Wade Kirshner speaking about start treating our teachers like assets, not commodities?
That was
Our
a
mayor-
year ago,
our
that was
mayor.
almost a year ago.
So
But
what?
that was different, he came
Oh, I'm
speaking
just saying.
for them.
She said,
I remember one,
No, I mean,
I-
we went to a meeting.
right,
Well,
we
that
weren't
was
there
lots of
in,
substitute teacher.
right, but we weren't there in the capacity of, like,
Actually just going, yeah.
yeah,
We also have government liaison meetings, which they attend
okay.
on a regular basis. Well, they attend on a regular.
Okay.
Okay, well, let's tackle a couple. Before we do that, I think overall, you should feel really good about the evaluation when you look at the overall numbers.
Good job, everybody.
And so that's good. But what the board wants to do is model for the staff and the community that you're open to improving on what you do. And so the way I found over time that probably 90% of the issues that school districts face are communication related. And I had a board member years ago use the phrase, a problem aired is a problem half solved. So many times bringing up a topic and talking about it and having a conversation, you're on the way to possibly solving that problem or agreeing on the way you want to approach it. So I'd say let's take the hardest one first, apparently. And that's the number 9. That's the one that received the lowest of all. There's only one person that said either almost always or often. So clearly, and we don't know what Jasmine's vote will be on that, but clearly that's that one and the next one seem to be the lowest of all the totals in terms of what's, and then the ones on the backside are 2s also. So anybody want to, so the board members keep confidential matters confidential. It's an issue everywhere. Little story, and I don't think I told the story. If I did, you probably forgot it anyways. But at any rate, so we took care of my grandson from age 0 to 5. And so he's like 3 years old. And we're out in the back and we're doing something with the water table or something. And he drops something and he goes, "Cam." I said, "Christopher, that's not a word that we use." And I said, "Where did you hear that?" He says, "My dad." So a week later, and so, talked to my son and, that's, Christopher. So anyway, a week later, we're doing something. He drops something or something and he goes, "Shoot." And he didn't say shoot. I go, "Christopher, no, that's not a word that we use around here." I said, "Where did you hear that?" I said, "Where did you hear that?" He said, I'm not supposed to tell you. So confidential information comes in all different formats and whatever. But I think it's a good message because is it a definition around it? Do people not understand what's confidential and what's not confidential? Most people don't intentionally disclose confidential information from my experience. So, what about that? Help me understand why that's an issue here.
Well, I mean, I said not sure because you're not sure if people are talking to their friends or, because you're not. I mean, you would hope that they're not, but you're not, you don't know, you know what I mean? But I haven't heard anything, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know what people talk about with other people. So that's, I said not sure because of that, because I don't know.
Others?
I would venture to agree with Wanda. I mean, I don't talk to too many people that would even really be like, wow, I know what's going on. So I don't know what other people are talking about. That's, once again, I don't have a bunch of teachers or people that are wanting to know what's going on the board.
Right.
So, I mean, a little bit, but nothing.
You don't see it as an issue from your perspective?
I'm not my opinion.
Okay. Others?
Kirsten, you come on, you got something to say. Your beach ball go get deflated?
I know, I'm just listening.
Nicola, what do you think?
I think there's been contentious times that when people more passionately disagree with the decision that's been made, they're more likely to then vent perhaps about how that decision was made or what the conversation was that led to that. I know for a fact that someone has written in an email to a colleague of theirs about me and things I said because then I got a call from that person and they said, I just got this email. Is it true you said all these things? So, I mean, it is what it is.
So the information, is it different between a situation, like the personnel situation, which is in closed session and discussed, and a decision that's made about the budget, for example, and staffing? Why is this an issue in terms of people's understanding of disclosing confidential information that should be confidential? If you said something about the fact that there should be more health aides, that's, but if somebody say, we hear the district's trying to get rid of teacher X, and they say, what's going on there? And you say, well, here's what's going on. Then that's obviously confidential information you're sharing that should be confidential, protecting the rights of the individual. So how would you say that's different? I mean, do you have any experience in this area where it would be, you think it would be disclosure, do you think there's been disclosure of confidential information?
Well, I would say I know there's been disclosure of confidential information, yeah.
And Nico, are you speaking specifically of the closed session?
Yeah, closed session negotiations primarily.
Negotiations primarily, okay.
Yeah.
Is this with our current board or old board?
But we could do both if you want.
It's juicier.
Well, that's why we're talking about it.
What do you say? I didn't
Well,
hear
can
it.
I speak to this? Because I think one of the things that's interesting for me is that, and I, having been, a superintendent for a while and also as a cabinet member with the board, I think there's an assumption, or there would be, I guess, one would, when you get onto a board, there's an assumption that things that are said in closed session are confidential. And I think that the concerning thing is when, for Londa, she's like, I don't know. She just put, I don't know. But I think that would be, you would hope that it would be, yeah, we're all confidential, we don't share this, and we can confidently say that. But I think that that's where with the 4 there and get some 1s, and the fact that there's a conversation about it tells me that there's not a, that's something that really needs to be discussed, because the things that are spoken in closed session are in closed session for a reason. It's not for the public information. It is among the board members and cabinet to be able to freely have a discussion. And if there's a I don't know, then that tells me then there's a question mark. Can I safely assume when I'm in closed session that things will remain confidential? That's a concern for me to see that, because you want to be able to assume, I would think as a board member, that whatever's said in closed session is confidential and everyone is able to speak freely without the feeling that something's going to be shared or sent out to something. And because there are really tough topics that we have to discuss in closed, whether it's personnel, student related, or during the negotiation process.
What I have to say, that I have a lot of friends who, work in the schools, since I've worked in a couple of schools, and a lot of teacher friends. And what's refreshing to me is none of them have ever come to me and said, "Oh, what's going on with this? What's going on with that?" None. With negotiations and everything, none. Which that's refreshing to me, because I'm thinking, oh great, I'm gonna have all my friends go, "Oh, what's this?" No. So they respect it. They respect the board and respect what our job is, and they're not nosy Nellies who want to know everything. That's refreshing to me, the public and outside people.
And I think it might be helpful to just have a point of clarification with regards to this matter, because of course we understand closed session items staying within the closed session, within the confines of the cabinetry.
That's true.
I'm gonna call them that from now on.
Cabinetry.
Between the cabinet and the board members, like we understand it stays in there, right? Or it stays with us. But then the point of clarification is, if I talk to Greg later and I'm like, oh my gosh, can we talk about what we are sunshining or what we're doing with the personnel, blah, 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 and it's just he and I, is that a breach of confidentiality? Since we're not in closed session, but we're talking about closed session things, we're discussing it. It's not a Brown Act violation because it's just us two. It's just 2 board members, period, having conversations about closed session things, not in a closed session though.
So Bob, I'm gonna ask you a question, because then if Craig then talks to Nicolo about the same
Well, we
thing-
understand Brown Act, I'm not asking Brown.
So you're just saying in the moment of 2 people having a conversation about a topic
Right.
that was closed and
Because
discussed
once,
in closed.
if her and I had the conversation, and I only spoke to Miklo, then that is a breach of the Brown Act, correct?
Well, not until you get
No.
to 4.
Not until 4.
No,
That's
I-
that
Even
spoke
after
thing.
meetings, right? Like there's like 3 of us in the parking lot and we just talk. Right?
It's not wrong.
It's not Brown
I'm
Act,
not
but
talking
is it,
Brown,
but then
I'm talking
again, is
confidentiality.
the
That's the point of-
confidentiality thing?
Yeah. That is the clarification point, right? We understand it doesn't go outside, but does it go outside the room? We've talked about this before, like we discuss, we debate, we listen, we consider, and then we decide, right? And we've talked about once we decide, just like anything else, that's now it's the board has decided,
Voice of the
right?
board.
It's not me, it's we have decided, right? So I understand that component, like we come out, that's even one of these things, is a unified front. I'm not talking about that, and I'm not talking about Brown Act, like
You're just
table
saying
that.
if I called Greg and I chatted with him
About something that was confidential in the closed session, would that be considered a breach of confidentiality?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I'm just asking.
Because honestly, I talked to Jasmine just because I didn't understand something or what.
But still, at the end of the day, like you need to process, and who else can we process with?
Yeah.
At the end of the
I
day.
can't go home and talk to my
Right.
husband because he'd go, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's Jasmine, that's why I brought it up.
No, totally, I
Is
agree
to
with you.
clarify.
1,700 hours, I'll give you the
Right.
answer.
However, because it's a board, you can't process with Shelley and Londa and
No.
Nicola, right? That's a Brown Act thing.
Yeah.
It's not a confidentiality thing. But asking questions, I mean, I'm sure most of you, I'm hopeful that any criticisms, questions or complaints or clarifications happen in the meeting. Like, I'm a big girl, like, I'll take it, like, you're, okay, you know, right? I'm kind of a big girl, I can take it. I'd rather hear the, you know, the like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, and I would agree with you. I absolutely don't, please help me out.
Therefore, you ask a lot of questions.
I do, I ask a lot of questions because I don't know.
That's good though, because you haven't worked in the schools and
I
you
haven't.
don't
I'm a
know
total
the
outsider.
processes.
So.
I mean, I don't even know, I didn't know what CIS was, so, and I've worked in schools for 24 years.
But I just mentioned that as like as an addendum to Jasmine's, you know, processing, you know, and that I hope that, and this is going back to our very first governance training, like I hope that we aren't so polite to each other.
Right.
That we're missing out on those opportunities to confront one another and say, I think you're misunderstanding my intent, or I think you need more clarification, or I'm not sure your point, I'm not sure that's logical. Like, I'd rather hear that in the meeting where something can change.
But Nicole, your example is concerning.
So I think let's focus on keep confidential matters confidential.
Yeah, it is.
My feeling is that if you're talking with another board member about confidential information, you're keeping it confidential.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sounds like.
It's once it's outside the
let's take
circle.
Negotiations, for example.
Right.
You know, if that's an area that's not kept confidential, then it causes all kinds of problems with the system.
Right.
And potentially for that. So, but when you look at the numbers here, it's 4 say they're not sure. So, you know, majority is not sure that that's happening, or there's a problem with that. But 3 board members have said often, less often, and rarely do they keep confidential information confidential. So, Joe, what do you think about all this?
What did you rattle off on that last part?
Number 9.
Number 9?
The individuals, the numbers.
Yeah, so four people said they're not sure.
Yeah.
And board members keep confidential matters
So they're not
confidential.
confident.
Yeah.
Only one person, nobody said always, almost always.
Well, because
But
you
at the same point in
wouldn't
time,
know
I mean, it's like,
that.
I don't think any of us hang out outside of here. I mean, so I don't know what each board member's out doing after we leave here. I see most everyone here twice a month. Sometimes maybe Jasmine, maybe 3, 4, every once in a while. But that's like rarely too.
Well, not to be contrary, but you could have answered that, like, you could say that for many of these questions, because none of these are individual questions, right? Like, I can answer for myself whether or not I prepare, but I could have answered not sure for all of these, like, I mean, with the preparation but I get what you're saying too.
I mean, I don't think other than like what Nico's bringing up, I don't think we've had any issues of stuff kind of like, hey, this was spoken of in closed session, you know, now it's out in the community. I don't think we've really dealt with that, not that I'm aware of. It used to be maybe every once in a while.
Sorry.
That's been improving.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
You're right.
I just said like we used to have that a lot.
You have a take on this?
I mean, I agree with the others. It's like, I don't think anybody that says anything does it intentionally. Like I've not like on purpose, I've accidentally like said things to my parents, but like not like super important stuff, but like just stuff that's happened. But like just in like normal conversation, because they'll be like, how'd the meeting go? And I'll be like, oh, like this happened, but like general stuff that's like everybody sees. And then it's like, yeah, like we don't know who's talking to who. So I don't think it's too much of like people reaching out being like, oh, like I heard this happen. I don't think it's too much of that. I mean, I haven't heard any of it, but I think it's definitely something that we should be more aware of.
So, what are your suggestions for either solving this, leaving the topic, going on to another one? I mean, it just seems like have we talked about it to the point that we're done talking about it, or, you know, this is your group, so.
Well, maybe sometimes you just have to like do a little reminder that, hey, what's said here stays here.
Okay, that would be a suggestion to
Right.
the kind of, from a communication, if there's confusion
Mhm.
about what you can say
Mhm.
outside of the board meeting, that would be the way.
Well, I say that, I tell my husband, I go, how was your meeting, what happened? Can't tell you, it's confidential,
It's top secret.
top secret.
We discussed
I
this.
tell him that all the time,
We
it's
discussed this.
confidential. He did tell me you were talking about stuff in the sauna though. No, I'm teasing.
It's need to know.
Totally
Happens
teasing,
in the sauna.
totally
Stays in
teasing.
the sauna. I don't know how this would be accomplished, but I kind of feel like if this is like the perception, how do we find out, or how do we get from somebody what their need is? Like if I am sharing out confidential information to, you said bargaining, right? So like if I'm sharing it out to the bargaining team, what's discussed in closed session, like, is there a way to find out why is Jasmine feeling like she needs to share this information, right? Like, what is the disconnect in that she's, I'm gonna say it out, like, that she has more, she doesn't feel safe in the environment to share and keep things confidential in closed session, and she has this need to share out to bargaining, right? Like, why, Jasmine, why? We're gonna talk to them tomorrow. Like, why do you need to go and share that? I'm just, like, how do we tap into our individual mindsets as to like, hey, here's a scenario, why would you do this?
Right.
I don't know if it has to be scenario based or whatever, I don't know. But is there, I'd be really curious to see like, what's the need?
Mhm. Well, one alternative would be to have attorney for the district do a little review about what does confidential mean in the public education arena. And what are the legalities of it? I mean, you know, if you disclose information, is there a consequence? Is there some thought?
Can I share something just really quick? And I think we're on the same wavelength on this, maybe not. We've had that discussion with previous attorneys and they sugarcoat it, and even with the Brown Act stuff, it's like, oh, you shouldn't do that, but nothing really happens. So it's like, okay, why do I need an attorney to come tell me that nothing really happens, even though I know the severity and, you know, like, all of that. That's kind of maybe I'm a little touchy on that subject, but it's just like, it's really annoying when we've heard that many times previously in the last, at least our first 2 years, and then nothing happens.
Well,
You know?
I don't know that that's true, that you lose nothing. Like maybe there's no legal ramifications that are instantaneous, but you lose trust, right? Isn't trust lost?
But no, I completely agree with that. But I guess from where I'm coming from and how I felt my first 2 years, it was kind of like, well, the people who actually needed to hear a piece, I don't mean to laugh about it, but the people who actually needed to hear that these are the ramifications of you doing what you're doing, it was not getting through, because with attorneys or whoever, the PD people, what they said, those people were taking it literally, like nothing can happen to you, or there's no legal case or whatever. They didn't care about their morals and their ethics. That just kind of went up and, you know. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, I think what Jasmine said like 2 comments ago was actually really insightful, like trying to understand kind of why they feel the need to share. We all know what confidential means, and I mean, yes, an occasional reminder is probably great, but I don't necessarily think it's fruitful to be doing on a routine basis. I think it probably is more fruitful to try and understand more of the why, and in particular when it stems from disagreement, the solution to getting someone not to share isn't to like cave to their position, but perhaps we could do more on like trying to understand of what do you need to be comfortable, not necessarily to agree and fully support the board's decision, but to at least be part of a unified front. And I don't know, I know sometimes it has felt like there is nothing that can, you know, bring people to that position. But just working on like, what do you need? What would you need to be comfortable with this decision that we're making? And I think, I don't know, what you said, striking.
I mean, I don't think we'll be able to get
Yeah.
it necessarily, but I think through scenarios, like in confidential responses, I think we can get something out of that. But I think that's the only real way that you'll be able to get anything, is like what somebody's mindset is in wanting to share or feeling the need to share or accidentally sharing. I think we could tap into some of that, and then maybe that'll, as a board, maybe it's that like, well, Niklo hurt my feelings in that board meeting and I just needed to vent to somebody. Or maybe it's like, I've lost complete and total trust in the team and I don't care anymore. And I'm gonna go and vent because people need to know. Maybe that's the mindset, I don't know. But it'd be insightful to know, because if we don't know if it's a break in trust or if it's just like venting or whatever it is, I don't know how we can really fix the issue. Because we're all adults, we all know, like Nico said, we all know what confidentiality is. We all know what Brown Act is. We all have our own morals and ethics that we adhere to. So, it'll be interesting to see. It's a whole dissertation.
So one alternative is to we have this conversation, it's been aired, and see if there is a instance where you get information that someone has shared confidential information. The best thing to do is the board president has the not the superintendent. Board president has a responsibility to talk to that individual and say, this is what we heard, and not blaming, but this is what our understanding is, that you may have given information out that was, and is that the case? And tell me if it is, tell me why, just tell me how you came to that conclusion.
Right, or why you felt the need to share that.
That's right, and so, and maybe they didn't, and maybe, so, part of that is that, stories are, we all know that there's 2 or 3 sides to every story, so let's not jump to conclusions, but but instead of just letting it kind of go that somebody leaked information, the board needs to follow up on it. And that falls on the shoulders of the board president to do that. It's really awkward when the board president is accused of leaking information. But, but that's, it's a problem. You and, 4 of you said you're not sure. So it's a problem that some people, a majority is not sure that it's even a problem. So.
Maybe I just lost my thought. If people are in place to do their job, and we have a board meeting, we talk about personal stuff, and so say it's negotiations, if that negotiations private, we have to trust that Chloris is going to relay the proper information to the person. We should not have to go talk about any of that to anybody, because you need to trust who is going to be relaying that.
Right.
And that's why we hire these people.
That's why you hire a professional.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe whoever did that, maybe they didn't feel like they were gonna get.
That's like,
But that's what I'm saying, like finding.
Yeah,
tapping into
and
their
that might
mindset.
be it, or they're just gossipy.
Totally.
Or maybe you just don't trust the process of who's going to be relaying the information. And that's a conversation that person needs to have with somebody to come back to where this is confidential. Everybody has their role, and that's not your role to do that. It's Chloris's role to do that.
Right.
and that goes back to like negotiations, and that's why when we were going through negotiations and Scott was giving us performance of where we were, I asked him a few times, hey, you're confident in your numbers? Yes, I am. This is what we can afford. Yes, it is. And they're not going to come back and find any findings of us telling mistruths and like where was money.
Right.
No, I'm confident. And then we had that third party person that came in and said, hey, you guys were here when the strike took place. It said level 5. Now you guys are at level 8 and the max is level 10. He's like, you guys are even more solid. I don't know if we can afford to pay him or not. I mean, I'm going off, that's what Scott's job is. So if he's saying I'm confident,
Right,
you know, and then you got this crowd of people out there, you know, and
saying what we can afford.
what we can afford. It's like,
Right.
well, they had better review. I don't know where they're coming up with numbers. I don't know those numbers. But
Right.
then it's like, you know, then you have Mr. Wade Kirchner here treat them like assets and like commodities. It's like that's stupid comment in my opinion for coming from our mayor.
Right.
Stupid comment.
How do you
Say that
feel,
for-
Gregory?
Oh, dumbass comment. I'll say it too. I'll say it for the record.
Sorry, Bob, we're all really shy about sharing our opinions in here.
No, it's great. So, I'd like to move on, but, you know, if the agreement is that we talked about this, that many people are not sure it was even a problem, but some people have indicated that moving forward, we all, except Shelley, are kind of part of this conversation. If there is any indication that somebody has board member has shared confidential information, that will be relayed to the board president, and the board president will contact that person and talk to them about it.
And if it's the board president, then it would go to the vice president,
Vice
right?
president, right? So I'm from a process standpoint, that way
What do we do after? What if it's yes?
Then you say, shut your pie hole and let's get back to business.
Well, isn't there legal
No,
like legal ramifications?
Well, it's in our governance handbook. It's in our governance policy, what happens next. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I have read it.
Oh, I bet you do.
He hasn't say. Come on now.
I feel the
Come
love.
on now. You know probably exactly what page.
All right, I'll pull it
and
up.
chapter.
I think maybe that might be more of like putting the fear in people or whatever, if you will, of like, hey, we have board policy, like I'm a mandated reporter of X, Y, Z, you know, just like we are in schools.
I think
So,
the fact that the board is even having the conversation is a good step. I think it's a
Uh-huh.
healthy conversation because I don't know, I think and Kirsten,
I know, I
felt the
didn't write
elephant in the
it down.
room because it was like, it needed to be brought up, you know, it's obviously
Mhm.
read here. And I think the fact that they're having this conversation and trying to navigate, if it happens, what will we do? How will we navigate it? And then, yeah, if it ramps up, there is gonna need to be, you know, information provided of here are the steps you need to follow. And
Right.
it can get big and, you know, and I think for me, that's the healthiest thing is that it's just being discussed. That it's something that was probably nagging, it has been probably for a long time and with, you know, previous board members, current board members, and so I think it's a healthy thing that you're even talking about it.
Well, I think Jasmine made a very great observation and Nicola seconded, which was like, hey, let's get to the root cause, right? Root cause analysis. And in your position as board president, you would be able to do that with any confidentiality violations. Like, okay, well, what was it, you know? But I think in all, like, not remembering exactly the steps of the disciplinary action, but like just reminding each other again of what we stand to lose. Not we, but as what the City Unified stands to lose
Mhm.
when we break their trust,
Mhm.
and that it can happen just that quickly.
Right.
For no malintent. Like nobody around this table has
trust? Didn't catch up.
used City Unified. Like our staff, our teachers, our
Well, I
The
think
whole
if
system.
if confidentiality it starts to be broken, these blues will go to reds quickly among yourselves in terms of all the work you've done to try to do this and be, you know, there's consensus of how you believe you're operating, and I would say it's true. But if confidentiality starts to become an issue, this will flip, and Bob, you'll be invited in again.
And going back to like negotiations though too, from what I understand from previous years before I was around, is that they used commented that they basically used to inch up closer, where it sounds like this time we went pretty much right to here's what we can do, and there's maybe a little bit of wiggle room, but not much. Where they were saying I got the feeling they were trying to say we were BSing them. And so I felt that I'm sitting on this side of the table, and it's like, so you guys don't have faith in the board, you don't have faith in the rest of the cabinet, yeah. You know, and that's where I start for me personally, it's starting to feel kind of personal. It's like, man, like, do you think we're all up here lying to your faces? I mean, here's the numbers.
I think when it comes to like money and financials, I think, Scott he's conservative and very safe and protective of this institution where other people are not. And that, it's not, I don't think it's that they think he's lying, I just think there's people who are more, I'm gonna use the term, it's political, more liberal in their thinking, and there's people who are more conservative in their thinking.
Yeah, and it's like, we also, as a board, we have a fiduciary duty. All of us have a fiduciary duty. It's like, we can't run in the red, and common sense business is like, run the red for too long,
Well,
we go belly up.
And people need to trust him. Sorry, I know I'm probably off, but what's happening now and how we're going and the things we've had to do, the layoffs and whatever, is exactly what he said would happen. That if we are not conservative in this, this is gonna happen. So these people need to trust what this man was telling us when we were going through all this. Yeah, we can do this, but we might have to pay for it later. And look, when you don't know what the governor's gonna give you and the funds we're gonna get, you don't. It's a crazy world right now.
Yep.
And we can expect all kinds of crazy things to
Right,
happen.
100%.
And so, but so we need to be prepared for that.
100%.
And I think that the comment about maybe a couple, maybe a standard reminder happens at closed sessions. Again, the board president says, probably don't have to say this, but remember that all this information is very confidential. And
We'll call it the
it needs to
fight
stay
club clause.
confidential. And I really think in many cases it's a communication problem, but in many people, when they get called on it, that makes a difference. And so, but it needs to be the board president calling them on it, not, and just saying, this is what I understand happened. Did it happen? If it did, we have a problem. And then reports back to the board about the issue.
But it also sounds like it's kind of a relatively isolated case as well. It's
Yeah,
like it doesn't sound like it's an issue as of recent. So it sounds like,
So next year, if you fill out this form, we should see some different numbers there based on just a conversation. So, because if everybody that said not sure said almost always, it changes the whole thing. So, alrighty, let's do the one right below it, because we sort of started talking about it, and that also received a 2, number 10. Board gives direction to superintendent only at board meetings. Jane, do you feel like you're getting pressure a lot from board members to do something without having to go through the board and anything?
And that's why it's been nice, because I have felt that in the past, and in my various positions I felt that way, but I feel like the board really did set forth the protocols for communication. That's why you text me and you fill me in and that's it, or if there's information that she asks, and I feel like the entire board needs to know, it goes out to the entire board. So I don't feel that pressure to say, anyone's calling me to say, hey, go do this.
Okay.
They share their thoughts and their opinions and their feelings about things, but I don't feel like anyone who contacts me has said, go do this. They may have asked for, some suggestions or my thoughts, but I haven't felt that pressure.
Right. Well, and you mentioned some of you mentioned it's the authority to get direction to the superintendent is through a majority of the board.
Yeah.
And not individuals. And if individual board members are in fact convincing Doreen to do something, then that's a violation of the Brown Act. And then, so Doreen then was very comfortable saying, really can't do that without the board approving that. So maybe that one, that also has 3 not sure, so numbers are numbers. But do we need to talk about that one anymore at all? I don't get the feeling we don't.
I think we were just confused on what it meant.
Okay, great. Well, let's skip to the back page, because there are a couple of keys there. 52 is the board evaluating the performance of the board. I think we've already made some progress on that one. And I think, just quickly, as I mentioned, if you're modeling accountability for the system, and you want the superintendent to self-reflect and decide on areas of growth that she chooses. You want the staff to do that, the principals, teachers. You want that to be an ongoing assessment and improvement. And if the board does that at least once a year, and your bylaws say that you'll do it at least once a year, so you follow your bylaws to do that. But also, you could pick a couple of these topics throughout the course of the year and just spend a few minutes talking about it. So, do we need to talk more about that one? Okay.
Have you all ever done this one before?
No, I
Okay.
think that was why it was more a reflection of the past.
Oh,
not
yeah.
That we're taking this step moving forward.
Right, same. Although I think, like, how I was asking, it's nice to see, like, progress, like if you had done it in the past, like.
And that will be the question, because we had used a different tool, and working with Bob and the CSBA self-evaluation, the question will be is, do you want to continue with this? Because you're right, to be able to see progress, you gotta use the same tool. And the previous tool, I don't know that, we were hit and miss whether or not we were doing the self-evaluation. So that's why, just in terms of direction from the board, if this is the tool, then we know that.
I think so.
I would.
I feel like the questions are very pertinent too.
It was very easy.
And then Bob, you called each of us afterwards, right?
When I called you
In process.
before the summary was done,
Right. And you asked us individual questions.
and just what you thought went well, and everybody said what went well in areas to improve. They're all very
Called me
consistent.
and scolded me for not doing my report.
As you should.
Scolding maybe.
Said Laura, too, can you do this?
She always asks.
Or did you fill that out for Greg?
And she called well, we and I had our conference call, but then she called at like 3:34.
She was
Same-
doing it
same-
at my direction, so
same day.
it was my.
That's already did it. Leave me alone.
She already tells us that you directed her. She always. I'm not bugging you. I'm just calling because Doreen asked me.
Well, she did her job. She did her job.
Good.
She called me the
Good.
same day. She's like, I said, I already did it, Laura. Stop
I always say
bugging."
gently remind.
Doreen asked us.
In all fairness, Doreen had no idea who had done it and who had not.
I did not, I
She
just
was-
said call and remind
She was
them.
totally out of the process, and I worked with CSBA on it.
But the reason I brought up the phone call was just to see if you had like all that information that you got from us anecdotally.
No, I think, what I think was blended in with all of this. I can't think of anything that somebody recommended that we haven't talked about.
Okay.
And most folks weren't really specific about areas, but just to continue to grow, to focus on students.
Bless you.
Sorry, I'm another 10 behind us, sorry. Yeah, and once I said, I start sneezing, usually it's good for solid 10. Maybe more, I never know.
Sneeze attack.
Yeah, just whenever it happens, it kicks in, it's like,
It keeps going.
they're deep too.
That's nice. Get it all out.
Does it happen when you're really enjoying something?
It's because you, Bob, yeah. They're 7:40 on a Thursday. Yes.
He always says the same.
What's our ending time?
I think 8 sharp.
Okay, let's look at community
Young man has
leadership.
to go to bed.
Yeah, one thing, several people mentioned community leadership, so.
I gotta trim my mustache.
Oh, golly, Tombstone. All right.
So, we've got two total, two on the ed scale. 3 of you indicated community leadership was an area that you thought you needed more work in. I think, just looking at 54, specifically, the board uses cohesive messages to communicate district priorities, goals, and needs. So why is this an issue? Why is this an issue for somebody feeling that this was something that really needed to be worked out?
I feel like there's been improvement because since the new board. Yeah, yeah. I think just refining like our board priorities and really narrowing down what we really want our vision and everything to be. I think we now have like a clear idea of what our goals are, and I think we're moving in the right direction.
Even the discussion earlier tonight about how the community goals within the
Yeah.
system
Yeah.
certainly addresses that in terms of cohesive messages.
Yeah, and I think I'll chime back in about like our parent liaisons and whatnot. That was definitely something that, the board, as a majority, probably even as a whole, I wanna say like prioritize. And that in and of itself goes to like the community engagement, community involvement. So I think we're going a step in the right direction. But it's also hard to, like when we did our redistricting or when we did our facilities master planning, like it's hard to engage families and the community, even though we did like mailers, flyers, or newspaper. We did a lot, like there was a lot of push out of, hey, we're gonna be doing this here. Like, it's kind of like, what else can we do? Thinking outside the box or whatnot, but I think that's definitely more than probably what we had done in the past or whatnot, or we've shifted gears that I think is just gonna take more refinement.
So I have a question on this one, because when I think about like being able to establish action plans moving forward, like as far as the vision for this is this what you all think, like us getting them to come to our stuff or us being present at theirs?
No, I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both, because it's nice to be able to have like parents come to our meetings and give their perspective, right? Equally so, I think it's important for us to be engaging with the community too. I just don't know like what's within our parameters, right? Like without like overstepping or staying in our lane as individual board members and whatnot, So I definitely think there's room for improvement. I definitely think that there's a lot that could be done. How, I don't know, but that's my 2 cents. But I think there's room for improvement on both pieces.
Thank you.
Other comments on this one? Joe? Nico?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past, with the past board, there was some differences of opinion on like our role as advocates or whether or not we could advocate and, be community leaders. But like Jasmine mentioned, I think it's like trending upward, trending positively. And so I think it's just important to keep some of that momentum going, to keep it going in the right direction. Because I definitely think there are times coming when it's going to be even more important than it has been, to be cohesive, to be messengers. And and sometimes it's just simple stuff like having the talking points, because like has been mentioned earlier, we're not always or often the actual experts in these things, the professionals. We've hired professionals, and we talked about acronyms. So often we're communicating in lingo and acronyms that sometimes it's helpful to just have like the bullet points. What can I say that people are going to understand when I talk about it and be able to relate to or support and agree with, so that I could better promote the message of the district.
I know you're a teacher as well. From a teacher's perspective, and I know it might be hard to generalize, but what, in the district where you're working, what do teachers want in terms of communication from the board? You're nervous now. I
Oh
mean,
God,
what
this is
do
a really loaded
teachers-
question.
What do teachers want? I mean, talk about, they're the most important resource we have in the district.
Like from the board?
Yeah,
Well, when a board member drives drunk onto the police department lawn and gets out trying to fight the cops and F you pigs.
That did not happen here.
Well, that's what he's asking where I teach. That happened where I teach. It's across the river. We'd probably like that board member to leave.
But he wasn't acting in a board member capacity at the time.
But he's still a board.
Well, I know, I'm totally
I
being
mean-
facetious for that very purpose.
We'd like
For the very reason.
just receptiveness. Sorry. Craig's cracking me up.
Or miss things.
I think we'd like communication and receptiveness. Like, I know people email us all the time about some things they really don't need to be emailing us about, and some things they really feel like they need to get off their chest. And I think we respond when appropriate. We forward it to the proper channels when appropriate. I think we all handle that really well. And that's not something I feel over there at all, that there's any openness to any type of communication at all, really. I mean, to the point where it feels censored oftentimes.
wow.
So I mean, I think we're doing good on that. Right.
Great. Well, the research shows that teachers will stay in a system. One of the reasons, retaining teachers obviously is a huge objective for school districts. And if they feel a part of the decision-making process at some level, they don't have to make the decisions. But if they're asked their opinions, what do you need to be successful? How can we make this place a better place for you to work?
Yeah.
That's so I think the communication needs to be two-way.
Yeah.
It can't just be, here's a memo, and, it gets stacks up with the other memos that are coming in, so.
And you can't just show up when there's a photo op.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be substantive
Yeah.
and stay for the conversation and,
Right.
yeah, and, yeah, which I like to think we do a good job of, yeah. I know there's been times when I've been at like events I remember even a Zoom once when they were like, I got a text from the staff member, they're like, oh my God, we had no idea you were training, like, let's introduce you, and I was like, no, please don't, like, there was one, I was just there because our Sally told me to join, it was like the vaping thing or something, I was at a vaping workshop, and they're like, we're gonna introduce you, I'm like, no, like, really, I'm just here because my little sister wanted me to log on.
Well, and that's something I also see some of you all do on your social media, is you'll forward things like out to the community from Yuba City Unified's nutritional services or things that the district posts. And like when I look at, number 56, or not 56, but supporting the district efforts, and all of that, hurrah, that's all. Good job.
Hoorah. So we have about 10 minutes left. You have completed a board self-evaluation. What you do with this information moving forward is up to you. There's still obviously areas that can be talked about, but I think it gives a good baseline. And it brings it to a conscious kind of level. Wow, there are really 56 things that we can really be paying attention to. And the emphasis is very important. And the process itself is great.
I mean, I don't know as far as action plans moving forward or anything, but is it is this just gonna be something that we look at? I mean, obviously, we talked about several action plans moving forward, but is this just something we look at right now and then we'll do it again next year and we'll see where we're at? Or is this something that we just
We did put on here, when our group talked to have another one in October.
okay?
Maybe it's not all 56 questions, maybe it is, I don't know, but whatever the pleasure of the board is.
Or maybe it's just revisiting this one and saying which ones have we moved positive forward and which ones do we need to.
Or we just do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my thought would be is because it was placed on the board calendar, and one of the things is I've taken notes kind of the things that kind of resonate for me, my responsibilities for you all to be successful. So, for example, community leadership, it's those things of the messaging, what we talked earlier in the meeting. In terms of board development, the fact that, we will have new board members in November possibly. So my thought process is I've got to remember that that was a conversation. It's an area that we need to get better at. So how will we do, onboarding of new board members or those who are potentially doing that? So I took those and I'm formulating kind of an action plan that, although it's your evaluation, it ties into my evaluation in terms of how do you to ensure the board is successful. So that's my thought. And then we're going to revisit this in October. And that would be my evaluation, cabinet's evaluation, and also kind of a check-in, and then also board evaluation. So that'll be topics that we'll discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that could back, and that's a great question, is Jasmine, if you'll indicate your responses in the board, you could handwrite the differences. That could come back to the whole board, because that'll shed some new light on it.
Well, if we do that, if we do that, then maybe we should just hand in our copies, because it's too easy to like compare the new one to the old one, and be like, I can know what you say on every one. Not that I'm that lifeless. I do.
Pretty malicious. You already got it all planned out.
I'm just saying, I used to do I used to do 360 evaluations for a living, so.
So you could.
We could, we could put a poster in there or make someone on Canva, just friendly reminder what's said here stays here.
Yeah.
On the wall in our closed session room.
What happens in Yuba City?
Pardon?
What happes in Yuba City?
Yeah, like Vegas, what happens there stays there.
Yeah.
I've never been to Vegas.
Why?
It's awful.
It's Jordan's favorite place.
Well, Susan,
Sorry, secret.
I noticed some of you have already completed your pink evaluation forms.
So excited.
It is an important thing. So we just want to do a quick, while you're doing that, quick trip around the room. And Laura, what did you think of this session tonight?
I think overall it was productive. I think it was very open and honest.
And we still like each other.
Yeah.
Well, that's questionable.
Wanda, closing comments from you.
No, I think it's awesome. I like coming here to this. It's interesting. It's interesting. It's fascinating. I mean, yeah. I have a different perspective of the bad DO that everyone thought it was. It's not like that.
I appreciate the time that the board has put in over the last year to get to this point. And so I think that the process has led to open conversations, feeling safe and being able to voice your opinions and not be judged and being able to understand how you operate as a governance team. So I think that's been, really healthy.
Great.
I wrote something similar to what Doreen said. I said reiterating the need to have crucial conversations in safe environments.
Nico?
Is it just like our takeaway? Sorry, is there a question here I'm supposed to answer? Or just a final thought?
Just final thoughts.
Jim Springer's final thought.
Just how you feeling about everything.
Jerry Springer.
I said that. Over here, hi. But Jerry's, remember his final thought?
What?
I'm so old. Go ahead.
I would reiterate what everyone said and just I think what's important is that even on the things we're doing bad on, I think there was a consensus that there was at least a positive trend, or at least there had been improvements. And for the most part, we saw where we needed to go, even if we didn't necessarily know how to get there.
Okay. Great, thank you. Rachel?
Just like the discussion, just openness of it. Like we see each other twice a month for meetings, and it's like very hard to just kind of talk about something openly. So this like helps understand each other better.
Greg?
Yeah, I think everyone seems to be open. Seems like everyone gets along pretty well. So it's good. Like last time, I felt like we kind of got to know more one-on-one type situations, like this Chorus is our newest member. I felt like I think we all kind of got to know her a little bit better, and it was nice because we really hung out with her. So.
Great.
What's your stripe of beach ball?
That's great.
Red
It's helpful.
colors.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, great. Well, I sure appreciate the chance to spend all this time with you all. And my hope for you is that that you'll really own the board planning calendar. One of my suggestions in the notes was maybe having the board president, superintendent, and another trustee, and of course Laura, be a part of and maybe every 2 months meet, go over the calendar, look ahead 3-4 months, anticipate maybe issues that could be coming up, and that's something you all own. That really, it can be a tool to help you be a very effective leader. So, good luck.
Is that something we can put on the agenda as like not an action item, but we review all right, according to the board calendar, next month we'll be reviewing da da
So
da.
that's exactly what I'll do at the end of every board meeting during my comments about that, what will be happening the next month.
That we'll review
And
the
if
board
there's
calendar.
and anything else that might need to be.
It's a great item to have on the weekend. That's good. Alrighty. Oh, we have another 4 minutes, which we do, Vic.
I have to do number 5 and 6. That's what we'll do for the next 4 minutes.
That's it?
Yep, that's number
Talk
5.
really slow.
What's that?
Do you have anything else you want to share, Mr. King?
There you go, your
No,
closing
that's-
comments.
Okay, well, let's see. Let's see. Michael Fullen, in his book Reading and the Culture of Change, says there are 3 personality characteristics that are necessary for all of us as leaders. One is that we have faith. For many of us, it's faith in students and children. That gives us energy. That we have a sense of hopefulness. It's not a fake pessimism. It's the fact that we're going to get through this together. We can do this. And the last is that you enjoy the interactions of life, and you gain energy from other people by building something that's really important. And so it's kind of faith, hope, and love in a way, but it's really a really important issue when you're thinking about what we need to do, not only to deal with the day-to-day things, but what it means to really be an effective human being and making a difference for Chris isn't here, the other Chris isn't here to say, I think it's 11,567 kids that you have an assistant, each one important and valuable. And I still have 15 seconds. So in conclusion, if I'm elected, no, that's a good. It's, let's see. I think I probably told you all the stories, so I know. Any questions at this point, Greg?
Yeah, my dog's hungry.
Okay, so on that
Does he
note,
like pizza?
the next board meeting is May 14th at 7 p.m.
At 7?
Open session. at
Open
7.
session, sorry.
Okay.
I don't know when closed session will be, but either 5 or 6, or
Okay.
6 or 7 or something.
2 weeks.
Can I get a, May 14th? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we move.
A second on a motion by member Cloutier and a second by member Lim. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.